Hey guys, welcome to Third Man in the Ring. This is episode 1 of the interview with Gil Carrillo, the detective who chased down, hunt down, got convicted, the Night Stalker. Please check it out and subscribe. And part 2 of the same interview will be on Patreon. You want to help out my podcast? This is where you're going to subscribe on Patreon. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, boxing and MMA fans from around the world. Introducing from Bassett, California, the third man in the ring, Popeye Ray.
Hey, welcome to Third Man in the Ring. I'm your host, Popeye Ray. Today we got an awesome interview. You probably recognize him already. He's famous for catching the infamous Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. We're going to hear a testimony of Gil Carrillo, of how he grew up, where he grew up. This is going to be a 2-part series, guys, so I hope you watch them both. But we're going to hear, I want you to give a good, warm welcome to Gil Carrillo.
Hey, Ray.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. It's an honor. Thank you for asking me to be your guest today.
Awesome.
Look forward to it. I see you. I met you years ago in the ring when I was doing ring announcing, and I still get a thrill because I still like to watch the fights on TV. It's not too safe. I don't go to the fights that often anymore. You never know what you're going to run into over there.
Exactly, man.
But I do watch them, and I get excited when I see old friends, and I get to see you every once in a while.
Awesome. Before we start, I want to tell you that Mark Ralia, lieutenant from the sheriff's, says nothing but high good things about Gil.
Thank
and
you.
he wants to send his love. And Pat Russell, the retired district attorney investigator, says, mind your business. He's going to go to any bar he wants to go to.
Well, they're still keeping.
I told him, Pat, like you said, man.
They're still keeping close tabs on Pat. He just got released recently from Raleigh Hills, but he'll be doing fine. He's an Irishman.
No, he loves you, Gil.
Oh, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. A lot of fun.
So, Gil, tell the fans right now, what are you doing with yourself today?
Today, aside from doing this podcast, I've been lucky. I've always done public speaking.
Yeah.
So I get invited around to go do some public speaking. But when this Night Stalker documentary dropped a couple of years ago, the director called me up. I didn't want to, if I can go back just a little, when we made the deal, he says, this is my idea. This is what I wanted to show. And I said, stop. I don't want to know what you want to show. That's your business. You're the professional. I'm just the talking head. And he says, okay. He says, well, as we get through it, I'll show you some of the rough cuts. And I said, stop. I don't want to see the rough cuts. Again, you're the professional. You do what you got to do. I trust you.
Yeah.
We had a handshake, and brother, that's good as gold.
And mind you, fans, if you want to see the documentary on Netflix, Night Stalker, watch it, bro. I'm telling you, man, it's chilling. And I'm not trying to say I'm some known killer. I grew up in Bassett, around the gang violence. That was crazy time. I was like mid-20s. I'm 60 now, mid-20s. Boy, I was sleeping with a BB gun, a squirt gun, a knife, a screwdriver, a hammer. I mean, it was a scary time,
I was dressing like a lady, brother, because he was killing the men. I dressed like a lady.
There you go. But so Gil, real quick, let's turn the clock back. Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in Pico. Well, when I first moved over there, I was only 5 years old. And then it was called the city of Pico. It was just plain Pico. Then they incorporated and became Pico Rivera, and that's where I grew up at. That's where I hung at. That's where I was out on the corner, out on the block, with the rest of my buddies. We were just a clique from Pico Nuevo. We were the Holbrook boys, and because that's where we hung out at.
Today.
Yeah,
Some
of them are still around today, and I mean, I'd stand out there, so what the loco me importa poco, and the sky is blue, ese.
That's right.
Donde? And I had 6 sisters growing up, 4 older, 2 younger, and I was going to be the first one that didn't graduate from high school. And my mom, she ran the family. My dad was the leader. He was the boss. But my mom, it was like, hey, you're in charge of the kids. That's the way culturally it was.
Yeah.
Women took care of the kids. The men went out and worked. My dad was a hardworking man. We didn't talk that much. He loved me. I loved him. And he never told me what to do. He would suggest, hey, maybe this yard ought to be cleaned up, And I'd say, yeah, I'm going to get on it, Dad, and bam, I'd do it. So the cops used to come by. There was this one cop used to come by, and what I didn't know, I thought was cool. I didn't know it was good police work. Up against the car and patting us all down. I thought this was all in fun. No, it was good, safe police work.
Yeah.
And he knew how to shoot the shit with the guys. And I never got that.
People skills.
He was trying to keep us out of trouble. You try to keep us under control. And so he said, if there's anything I can ever do for you guys, well, I wasn't gonna pass. And my English teacher said English was a requirement. And so I just said, she told me, hey, you write a term paper and I'll give you a D. That'll allow you to pass. So I went to him. I said, hey, I want to write a term paper, but I don't know how to do that shit. Would you help me? Yeah. And I want to write it on cops. He said, all right. So he helped me write the paper. I turned it in, and he took me home. And he told my parents, sign for this boy to get off the street or he'll end up in prison or he'll end up dead.
He obviously seen something there.
And so at the age of 17, my parents went ahead and listened to him and signed for me to get off the streets. And I went into the Army. And
what year was this? Was there a war going on at the time?
Vietnam was blowing up. And the big word of Vietnam years later, and even then, was the Tet Offensive. And that was the big push by the North Vietnamese to wipe out everybody. And that started in February, and I got there February 1st in Vietnam. I turned 18 November 29th of 1968.
That was deep. That was when it was at the heyday. Huh?
And that was when it was deep. And then February of 69, Tet started, and I got there. And I went through 13 months of combat, and it was
thank
heavy.
You for your service.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I learned a new appreciation on life. I matured while I was over there, and I learned that there's absolutely.
How old are you when you actually went over there?
18.
Wow.
I was 18 by 2 months.
Still a baby, eh?
I was a baby. I'm still looking for my next burrito, and it wasn't there, And all of a sudden, these people are shooting at you and trying to kill you, and rockets and mortars were coming in, and I consider myself fortunate and lucky. I was a crew chief on a helicopter, so I flew every day. I got over 1,200 hours in the air in combat missions, and so I get up and go out. The poor guys on the ground, the grunts. I mean, they're in the jungle. They're what they call in the shit, and they were. My hat went off to them. We inserted them, and it's like we take them out, drop them off, and then we say, okay, see you, good luck, and then we take off. And I got to come home every night and sleep under a roof. Those guys were out in the jungles every day. And, then it was time to pick them up. And every time we went to pick them up, then all hell was breaking loose. There was shooting going on all over the place.
A lot of death. Huh?
And a lot of death. We inserted medevac, pulled out dead, pulled out wounded, resupplied ammunition, food, mail, anything. And I did that for my first 7 months. And then the last part of my tour, I decided to get out of slicks. Those were called slick helicopters. Mm-hmm. And every time we'd get shot, I'd start taking a bunch of rounds. We'd just drop smoke and pull up and out, and then the gunships would come in, and they'd go in and they'd sweep up. And I said, I'm tired of running, and I wanted to go to gunships. So I went over to a gunship, and then it was just, and I learned, later that there are no winners in war. Everybody loses.
Everybody loses.
And so I pray now. Tonight, daily, I pray for what's going on in Israel. I pray for the Israelis. I pray for the Palestinians.
Likewise.
I pray for the Ukrainians, and I pray for the Russians. Those people that are in combat, there are no winners, and they've all have families. They all have lives.
The innocent on both sides are losing on that.
Sure.
I mean, I heard this little phrase on the news the other day. Israel's using their missile to protect their people, and Hamas, not the Palestinians, Hamas are using their people to protect their missiles.
Sure.
And it's just sad because I have a son in the military right now, and my oldest son, Ray Jr., was 82nd Airborne Infantry, 2 tours in the first war. So I can't say I know what war is about. I've been in a little gangbanging incident, but these guys that went to the war, guys, you got to show them love and respect, because especially Vietnam, Korea, those wars were. So a lot of it was hand-to-hand combat, bro.
They were tough, but I'm fortunate. I'm blessed. I made it out alive, and I came out with 3 goals in life. Number one, I wanted to go to college. And
Now, real quick, Gil, in your family, how many went to college?
none. I was the only one. Even cousins. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college.
Let alone raza at that
Yeah,
time.
and I thought at that time, I was naive, and I thought only rich white people went to college. But I wanted to go to college.
My podcast Billy is white, so that's why we giggle.
I really did. I thought only rich white people went to college. I knew I had matured because I sent for my high school transcripts, and I was embarrassed when I looked at them. I obviously thought D stood for damn good, you know. F was fabulous, you know.
Yeah.
So, but they had to let me in at Rio Hondo because I was a combat vet. I was a Vietnam vet.
That was automatic in.
And they let us in automatically. So I got in there.
Considering how they treated some of our Vietnam vets, you know, that was a blessing on that part.
It was. They let me in. I remember a letter coming to my mom's house from the local assemblyman, congress. I don't know who it was from, but they said, "Congratulations, your son has made the dean's list." Because now, from D's and F's, I wanted A's. I wanted straight A's. I worked hard. I wanted straight A's, and my mom even said, "Milo, are you cheating?" And I said, "No, Mom, this is new me."
Is this your report card?
Yeah. And so that was goal number one. I wanted to go to college. So I started there. Number two, I wanted to become a cop because I wanted to give back what that cop gave to me, and he gave me my life.
So with that said, Gil, growing up, even though you lived in the barrio in Pico, did you have a dislike for cops, certain ones, or?
No.
So
you already knew
they treated you somewhat fair, right?
You already knew there was a guy named Robles. And Robles was a tough cop. The guys that see him,
Street cop, we called him.
Yeah, they'd say, "Here comes Robles," and everybody would run. Because if you were too slow and Robles got you, it was, "Where do you live?" "Over there." Bam!
Get home.
You know, and he'd say, "Where do you live?" 5328 Doolin Avenue. "Okay. What's your name?" "Gil." Bam! I said, "What's your name?" "Gil Carrillo." "Oh, okay." And you didn't answer him the right way, and you'd get a chingazo. You know, he was tough, didn't take no bullshit, rip you off, take people to jail. But everybody knew it too.
Yeah.
Here, who is it? "Oh, it's Al. Al Arias." Al's a good guy, you know, he'd come and bullshit with us. Yeah. But there were some tough cops back then. Some you knew to run from, and the other ones you didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's the way it was. But that's what I wanted to be. I knew I could be a good one because I had something to give. I had a purpose.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go to college. I started college. I became a cop. Number 3 is I wanted to start dating my ex-girlfriend because she wrote me a Dear John when I was in Vietnam. And my heart was broken, brother. I mean, my corazón was cracked. And I was full of, I wanted revenge. So I came back and I wanted to start dating her. I figured I could get her eaten out of the palm of my hand again, and then
Big stud, you.
and then break it off on her, watch her suffer like I had.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got out in June of 70. By September of 70, I had her eaten out of the palm of my hand. And the day after Christmas of 1970, boom, yeah, we got married. And this year will be 53 years that we've been together.
That's right.
So 2 out of 3 I accomplished. I keep telling her, "I'm working on number 3, baby. Don't give up now." You know.
That's right. That's right.
And she has been, we've been married 53 years, but let me tell the world, she's the reason we're still married today.
Amen. Amen.
She's the glue that's kept everything together. She's nothing like I am.
I mean, there's an old saying, tell me if you agree or not, behind a strong man is always a strong girl.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
for sure. I call her affectionately Sister Mary Clarence. You know, she's the one, you watch the cartoon, she's on her shoulder going, "Oh no, don't do that." I'm on the other one going, "Yeah, do it.
Do it.
Yeah. She's
exactly.
She's the kind one, the big-hearted one. She's a lot closer religious-wise. You know, we're both believe, we both pray, but she's the strong one. You know, she's the one that keeps us together.
They're the glue. They're the glue of the family. You know what I mean?
So we got married, raised 3 kids, and none of them have gone to jail. They're all good. They're all adults. 52, 49, and 46.
There you go. There you
And,
go. Grandkids?
I have 4 grandkids. One of them you just met. He left.
Good looking youngster there,
yeah,
man.
good
Guy
looking.
sculptured. He looks
Yeah,
like you,
he looks
Gil.
like me.
That's
I
right.
taught him. I told work hard. You too could look like me when you're older.
That's right, son. Tell him.
He's got an older sister. She's 29 or no, she just turned 30. She's 30. She's been a blessing. She's out of high school. She got a scholarship. She went to a school of performing arts. She's a dancer, and she's danced all over the world.
I mean, with that said, Gil, I mean, a lot of us, we want the best for our children, but did it ever cross your mind, you know, when you had kids, what if one of my kids goes astray? How would you deal with it?
No, never tried to outthink anything in the front. You know,
Took it
take
day by
everything
day, huh?
day by day. Just hope.
right.
You know, you prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
There you go. That's the way I always thought.
That's
for the
what
worst,
you
hope
got
for
to
the
do.
best.
And fortunately, the good Lord blessed me, and we've had, you know, minimal amount of problems. Nothing involving law enforcement, but we've had minimal. Certainly, the family, domestic problems that go on, but other than that, nothing. There for a while. Last year, this house, because my oldest daughter had gone through a divorce. My wife and I raised her. The boy that you just saw right here, he lived with us for about 5 years, 5-6 years, not longer.
That's
Than
Mijo right there.
That's Miko. Yeah. And then we have his sister. She had lived with us for a long time as well. And I'm getting up in age, and, you know, and I finally decided, I told the wife, I said, you know what? I'm tired of looking, this house is looking tired. We haven't done anything to the inside in a long time, so. And my oldest daughter, since the pandemic, you know, she was living in Chino Hills with a friend, with a girlfriend, a friend of ours, and then she decided, no, she had to come closer. She said, Dad, can I stay here just for a few minutes? They're trying to decide whether we're going to be going back to work in the office or staying out. So she came back here. Well, that was just a couple of months, lasted like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, this couch, not that couch, but the other couch, that was her bed. This was her bedroom. Her closet was my den. And I got mad one day and I
I
said,
can imagine the ladies, you know.
I said, I don't even have enough room to hang up my shirts from the cleaners. What's going on here? So I told the wife, I said, okay, that's it. This month, August 7th, I said, I'm going to tell them all, sit them down. I said, okay, you got 3 weeks, get all your shit together, because we're going to go through the entire house, which means everything's got to be moved. I don't care if you put it in storage, what you got to do, but you got to clean everything up, because we're going to rip out the carpets. We're going to do everything.
You got a beautiful home, man.
And thank you. So that's what we did. And it turned out, my grandson said, Papa, not a problem. I just found me a place. I'm moving by the beach. And so
Must be nice, man.
he got himself, and he loves it. And he's only paying $1,200 a month. That's what he was paying.
Wow.
And so he's out there. My granddaughter moved down to Oceanside with her boyfriend. She's back and forth because she's still dancing. She's teaching. Her boyfriend, he travels around the world giving dancing lessons. These guys, they're good at what they do. And my daughter, she said, Dad, you don't have to worry. I was going to tell you next week anyway, because I just been approved. I got me a place.
Maybe she can give me some tips on my fishing.
There you go.
That's how I do it, man. Yeah.
So I got my son living in an apartment about a mile crow's fight from here. My daughter living the other direction in an apartment by herself this way. One daughter living in the house that I grew up in.
Oh.
When my mom passed away, the house was mine to sell, to divide amongst my sisters. And so my daughter said, Dad, I want to buy it, because I look at some of my friends that have kids and married and whatnot, and they're living in apartments. I don't have that. I don't have that problem right now. So what I want to do is I want to have a house when I'm ready. So that's what she did. She bought the house, and now it's her, the old man, and 2 kids. And she got a later start in life with the children, and she drives them.
Worked out right.
Yeah. She drives them every day from Pico out here where I live, and she brings them to school over here because there's a better school over here.
Nice
It's a public school, but it's some kind of, I don't know what they call it.
Charter school.
No, it's not a charter. It's part of the school district, but that school, you go elementary from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade.
Oh.
And you go from there to high school. You don't go to a junior high. Everything's done in there, and it's most of the people I understand come from outside. You know, she uses our address. You know, she stays here part of the time, so
Can't be the school I went to when we all came from the outside, all boys. But hey, Gil, real quick, well, not real quick, but let's go to your cop days before you became a detective.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of raza in your?
No,
sheriff?
there wasn't. Well, when I came on, there was a big push to get the raza in. Matter of fact, they found out I was hired under some kind of Mexican grant. I don't know who gave it to them, but when they hired me, there was a group of us that were hired, and so they were paying. The federal government was part of this grant was paying my wages. But we found out my daughter was born December 7th of 1971. And went to the hospital, found out I didn't have any insurance through the department. Household Finance owned my daughter for a few years. You know, we had to take out a loan. I was in the academy, and my sergeant in the academy got really pissed off because he said, how can you hire these guys and there's no insurance or they don't have benefits? Because I was not considered the group that was hired on, trying to get more Mexicans on. We weren't hired full time.
Grant,
yeah,
like
and so they were paying our wages, but they weren't paying for benefits. So although I swore in October 1st, 1971, I didn't get picked up by the department full time until February. And we didn't find that out. And so once they picked me up, then I get all the insurance and everything else. But prior to that, I didn't. I worked the jails for 2.5 years. Then I went to...
How was that?
I worked graveyard. It wasn't as bad as people say. You know, I had fun. Wherever I go, I'm going to have fun. And I did have fun. And, you know, I learned a long time ago, you treat people the way you'd like to be treated.
That's right.
And it goes a long way. And I remember once we had an earthquake. And I was in the old Hall of Justice. That's a big ass old building, and the whole thing started swaying, and the inmates started going, "Hey, what's going on? What's going?" Well, there is no way. I was on the 11th floor. I don't have keys that could get me out of that building, but I could get out of the gates on the 11th floor. And they started screaming, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?" And I slammed the gate shut. I said, "It's an earthquake. Every man for himself." And I went running down.
And they're in their cells.
They're in their cells. They can't go anywhere.
That's cold.
And they started screaming, and then I stopped and I started laughing. I
More
said,
tough guy then.
I said, "Hey, we're all going to die together." Oh, and everybody started laughing. They started throwing toilet paper at me, all kinds of shit. And then we all started laughing.
Yeah.
And they said, "You know, that was pretty cool. You know, that was mean, brother, but that was all right." So I got along with the guys.
So is it fair to say you were firm but fair?
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
I mean, I think I told you, you know, I had my stretch. I've been state raised, you know, you guys know my little testimony, but when I was in the county, like I was saying earlier, when we had a weak sheriff, a weak deputy on board, we'd run havoc, whether it be violence or, you know, just running drugs.
You'd steal their shorts off them.
That's right. But when we had a firm but fair cop, it was you were probably safer on that tier than you were on the streets. You know what I mean? Because he would go down there and say, on my shift, you will not attack each other. You will not be selling drugs. If you guys want TV time, you're going to act right. And he treated us right. He'd get us extra sandwiches, you know, the whole thing. And this is what I try to tell the fans. You know, we're all over here trying to defund the police. But yet some of these people that want to defund the police are the ones that are calling the police. You know, and it amazes me in this time of age, you know, like I was saying, Gil, a lot of these people want to hold you accountable, but don't you dare hold me accountable. You know?
There was a famous activist of noteworthy activism here locally, and he was all over LAPD. I mean, they're no good, they do this, they do that. And then all of a sudden his son got murdered.
Oh, wow.
And so the rhetoric all stopped, and now it's, "Hey, we got to help these guys. We got to." And they said, "What about you know, all the actors?" He said, "Well, they still have to be held accountable, but right now is not the time." And all of a sudden it changed because he needed the police, and it's easy to make light of them. It's easy to make fun of them, and you can scream, and everybody's got cell phones now, and everybody takes pictures and videos, but when you need them, the first people you call are the cops.
Yeah.
And these guys, what they don't understand, because some of them, due to ignorance, they just don't understand. They believe that people become cops because they want to go out there and beat the shit out of people and kill people. And they don't understand that they would give their life to try and help you out, to save them. And they do. They sign a paycheck to include, I'll give my life for you. And it's terrible.
I mean, it's funny now. I laugh now, but they saved me in a couple incidents when I was outnumbered. You know, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. You know, I laughed about it then, and oh man, I could have got away, or I was winning. And when they drove up, man, thank you. You know what I mean?
You know, I
grew up in the city of industry, the Bassett area. You know, but
that's La Puente, brother. No matter what you call it, you know, that's La Puente. You know.
We prefer to say Bassett, but that's another story.
That's another barrio. They, you know, there were how you treat people. I went to patrol, and because of my upbringing, I was a natural. They had me working gang detail.
Oh, so you didn't ask for it, or it just came your way?
It came my way working uniform, and then I didn't like the way they worked them. They were doing it in uniform. You can't talk to people on the street in uniform. So I went back just to work in regular patrol, and then they came to me and they said, "Hey, we want you to come back to gangs." I said, "I don't want to go back to gangs." And why not? I said, "Because you guys work it all wrong. You want to get to these people. You got to be in plain clothes. You got to be able to talk to them, rap to them, and you can't be hooking and booking every day. You know, sometimes you'll take them when they cross the line. If not, you let them out there. Because these guys, although they're bad, they're not bad every day." They said, "Well, that's exactly what we want you. We want you to hit up the new gang unit, and it's going to be plain clothes." I said, "All right."
You guys wore green jackets, no?
Yeah, raid jackets. And so we went ahead and we did this. And there was a gang at the time in East LA they used to call La Hood. And La Hood was north of the San Bernardino Freeway, north of the 10 freeway, up by City Terrace, but only on the north side of the freeway. And it was like a little island all by themselves. Everything, they were surrounded by industry, but this group of houses, they were there, and these guys were up there, and we'd go up there. Nobody paid attention to them except for my partner and myself. So we started going up there, and we started taking care of business. Find out years later, while still working this, we're on Whittier Boulevard, and it's cruising. Everybody's cruising on Whittier Boulevard, and right in front of us, these guys get out of the car, and they're carjacking the car in front of them. I mean, they're hitting them with tire irons. They're doing everything, and these guys are in there. 2 guys in the car. They're shitting in their pants. They're going to get killed. And so the guys run back, get in their car. I get out of the car. I tell my partner, "Get us some backup." I get out of my car. I run up to the driver, and I pull my gun. I said, "You go, you're dead." And the guy in the backseat on the driver's side saying, "Fuck him, he's by himself. Let's get him." And he tries opening the car. I kick that door closed. I said, "You're going to be the first one to die." And then the driver starts getting out, and I go back over here. Bam! Now it's you again. Who's going to do? And here comes a car. I was more afraid of traffic coming. I was going westbound, traffic coming eastbound. And somebody, if my back's to the traffic coming this way, somebody's going to hit me. They're going to know I'm the cop. They're going to hit me, and then, oh, shit, a car comes up and he says, "What's going on, Kukui?" Because that's what they called me out on the streets, the gang members that knew me. The cops started calling me Kukui, which is the boogeyman for those that don't understand the language. "What's up, Kukui?" And I said, "Hey, just stop right there. Just block traffic for me. These guys are giving us a hard time. Shit's going down." All right. And so they stopped their cars. So now I'm not worried about anybody running over. And then they started saying, "Hey, putos, you better back up. These are our homies, bro." They stood there and they gave me protection, and we got more cops there. Everybody went to jail, and they told these guys, "Okay, just go back up to the hood. I'll see you later." And so later on, I went back up to the hood to thank them personally, and gave them their reward, and then we left. And those guys backed me up, just like guys in the hood. I was their cop.
Yeah.
Well, years later, one of these guys was working for the gas company. The gas company had an office, had their building right across the street from the sheriff's station. And so we'd rip out of the sheriff's station. The guys would see us all the time. And one guy's telling a story on how they were going to kill these 2 cops. They set them up for ambush. They were going to kill them because they were in our barrio and they were fucking with us. He says, and we set it up 3 times, but 3 times these guys were safe. You know, we didn't get the shot. But then we learned they really weren't that bad. They were good guys. One of them was called the Kukuy and the other one was called Green Eyes. That was my partner and myself. And they thought originally, because nobody had gone up there before, now we're coming over, we're going to let you know, hey, yeah, you live here, but this ain't your land, and we're going to run it right. And so these are the guys that eventually backed me up, and we rewarded them. We became friends. You learn to talk to these people, and you could talk to them.
Mutual respect, yeah.
And so that's what I did. I did my gang work there in East LA, and as a result of the gang work that I did in East LA, all of a sudden I get notified that Homicide's interested in me. They want me to go up and work gang murders.
So tell me if I'm wrong. Nowadays, 2023, you have to take an exam and all that to be a detective.
They did. You know, when I got on, there was no exam. You had to go up there.
Earn your bones, pretty much.
You had to earn your bones, which really had me frightened back then, and still today. It takes, on our department, on the sheriff's department, it takes a minimum of 15 years to have enough experience to get up to homicide bureau. Not to be a detective. You could be a station detective. You can work robberies. You can work dope. You can work child abuse. You can work any of those other units. But to work homicide, which is supposedly the creme de la creme, the elite, 15 years. I only had 9.5 years on when they started making inquiries. And so all of a sudden I get a phone call right here. And Lieutenant calls me up and he says, okay. He says, your dream came true. He says, you're being transferred into homicide. And I screamed and my wife came running, what's up? And I said, I'm going to homicide. I'm going to homicide. She says, when? I said, shit, I don't know. I forgot to ask him. So I called back and all he said was, I was wondering how long it was going to take you, fat ass, to call me back.
Call me back.
He said, it was a Friday. He says, it's official on Sunday. You're gone. And there was no list that came out.
That was a long Friday, Saturday?
Oh, geez. You know, I went to work on Friday, and then that was it. Didn't go to work on Saturday because I was going to report to them. He says, call up this lieutenant. The lieutenant that I called up had been a sergeant at Homicide Bureau, and I'd worked case with him. And I had nothing but respect for the man, you know.
So with that said, I mean, we all know how it is, military. I'm not saying I know, but what I've heard. So walking in, you're not getting hatred, jealousy.
Well, I was afraid of that. I walked in, and one of the guys on the team that I worked with, the guy's name was Louis Danoff, better affectionately known as Louis the Hat. He always had a hat on, and he was, everybody knew him. He was a good cop. And he said, come here, kid, sit down. Time to talk. He says, you are now a part of Sheriff's Homicide. We have a vested interest in you. You will be good. We have a reputation to uphold, and you will help uphold that reputation. If not, if you try doing anything on your own, you think you're that good, you don't have to ask questions, we'll shit all over you, and you'll be back pushing a radio car.
So he's pretty much telling you we're a team here.
That's right, and that's just the way it worked out. I was awestruck there for the first year. I mean, I just couldn't believe I was around these guys. As a matter of fact, in Netflix, people thought, you're lying. No, I'm not lying. I remember I'd only been up there a few months, and
I thought you were pushing paper or something up there. Huh?
And I went out to lunch. Went to Little Joe's in Chinatown, and sat down, and it was an Italian restaurant. Well, this Mexican never ate at an Italian restaurant, and so I'm looking at the menu, and I ordered the closest thing to Mexican food I could find. It was chicken parmesan, and it was breaded chicken with cheese on top, melted with red sauce.
Still looking for the hot sauce?
Yeah, and I'm saying, shit, yeah, okay, well, I'll take that. And I'm starting to eat, and I start laughing. And Frank Salerno, who was there, looks at me and says, what are you laughing at, kid? And I said...
You guys weren't partners?
No, we weren't partners then. And I said, oh, nothing. And he says, bullshit. He said, what are you laughing at? I said, okay, I'll tell you what I'm laughing at. I said, 2 weeks ago, I'm eating a double wrapped Loopy's Red off the hood of my radio car. Today, I'm sitting here having a glass of wine, eating some shit that I don't know what it is, with Frank Salerno and the guys from Homicide Bureau. I said, it doesn't get any better than that. And I was laughing, and I meant it. And they're saying, you didn't know what chicken parmesan, the guys now who are you kidding? You didn't know what chicken? I really didn't.
Yeah, you just.
I was a
that's
young
that was
guy.
the culture back then.
Yeah, I never went west of downtown LA except for once to take a girl out. You know,
So when you were before Richard Ramirez, we'll get to that. Before the Night Stalker, did you work any other homicides prior to that?
well, yeah, you start working from the day you get there.
They-
You work back then. We had beepers, so you worked. If it wasn't during the day when you were working, they'd get you on the beeper. Hey, you got a murder, and they'd give you an address, and you go start working the murder.
So you didn't go to any kind of schooling, or
No, well, they send you to school, but I had investigative because of the gang work that I had done.
yeah, that
And the
goes
guys
hand in hand. No,
yeah, the guys from homicide would come down there and they'd say, "Hey, Gil, we need some help with this gang murder." So you'd go and some guys would say, "Gil, you take on the interview, before us. See if you can
because
bring."
you were more
Yeah, and
streetwise with the gang members.
yeah, and gave me the information, and they're the ones that started encouraging me, put in for it, because I said, no, it takes a lot of experience, and I don't have that. He says, you got it, you got what it takes. So I went up there, and so I started working. My first partner was a guy named John Allender, and Allender to me, he was an old man. I was only 35 years old, I think, when I went up there, and this guy had to be close to 60 already. That's a big gap, and he looked old. And I learned very quickly that he had more knowledge in his thumbnail than I would ever have. And I asked him one day, I said, hey, how long is it going to take me to learn all this stuff? And he said, kid, you're full of piss and vinegar, you're full of energy, and you're good. Year and a half, 2 years before you feel comfortable.
Wow.
I said, really? He says, really? And that's because you're good. So it took every bit of that. And I got to talk to John a few years ago. He's retired, and poor guy was sick, and he was dying of cancer. And somebody told me, and I gave him a call. I said, John, I just wanted to see how you're doing. I understand you're sick, but I want you to know I'm praying for you. And John, when I went with you, I said, I learned really quick that you had more knowledge in your thumb than I'll ever have. And he says, who are we trying to kid? I told you then you were good. He says, no, you got the knowledge, and everybody looks up to you now. He says, you got the knowledge, you got it all, and you had it then. He was just a good old guy.
So
I went.
besides Solano, there was still other
Sure,
high-profile detectives too,
Well,
right? I think Solano mostly became famous because of the Hillside Strangler.
The
no?
Hillside Strangler. He was
The Bono, was his name Bono or something?
Angelo Bono.
Bono.
Angelo Bono, and I forget who his partner
His
was.
cousin, wasn't his
Yeah.
cousin? Yeah.
Kills me when I can't remember, but it wasn't my case. I don't have to remember his name. But Salerno became famous with him. Salerno had a name anyway. He had worked internal affairs, and he was just a good investigator.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Isn't Internal Affairs kind of,
The Rat Squad. No,
Mm-hmm.
no, they're not.
or is that just movies?
That's movies. The reason our guys were good, and Frank, and he worked with a guy named Jack Scully, is some citizen would make a complaint or file a complaint against a deputy. So they'd go out, and what you find out is most citizen complaints come in, and you let them start talking. Really, he did this? Did he do anything else? And then they start exaggerating, and they start making stuff up just to pile it on, and they write it all down. Then they go and they start investigating, and then they find out this is a lie, this is a lie, this is a lie. Therefore, we're throwing out the whole case. So they actually saved more guys than they did harm to. And those that were messing up, they deserve to get in trouble. There's nothing worse than having to work or clean up behind a dirty cop.
There you go, fam. Hey, so before we go, guys, Gil, do you want to say anything? Any closing statements?
Yeah, I just like to say that there are bad cops and there are good cops. And not everybody,
agree.
We all wear the same uniform, but not everybody is equal in personalities and the way they do their job. And so until we get the opportunity to work together, we're going to continue to have problems. I just ask that you continue to support law enforcement.
I agree.
Don't defund them, because you defund them, then who are you going to call when you need them?
Yeah,
And
exactly. We
God-
all want justice. We all want, like I said earlier, we live in an era now but we could change it. Like the great Michael Jackson says, start with the man in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
You know, we want you to be held accountable, but don't hold me accountable. Shouldn't we all be held accountable? I mean, in my days, you just do as they say and you go home. You know?
God bless you all. Continue to watch Ray Corona. Follow him.
So be ready for part 2 of this, guys. Hey, guys, now it's episode 2, the interview with Gil Carrillo, the Night Stalker. It's in detail. Get on Patreon. This is how you're going to help my podcast. God bless.